Hello again everyone and welcome back to the channel. I'm McSnazzi and we're back again today with some more Planet Zoo in our Timber Gorge Zoo build. Today we are going to be making our first animal exhibit. And I'm sure you could tell by the title of the video, but it's going to be flamingos. Now I wanted to start with a smaller animal for our first exhibit, just so we're not tackling anything too big early on, or just having something too big at the beginning of the zoo. Because I feel like in most zoos you have sort of smaller animals at the starting, and then they gradually turn into the larger animals more towards the back. I guess that's sort of a business sort of thing. You kind of want everyone to walk through the entire zoo, and most people want to see the big attractions. So that being said, we're going to be starting here. I've kind of adjusted the path to make sort of a looping shape. I wanted to make the path off the main track a little bit so not everyone who's looking at the flamingos crowds up the main walkways to the back of the zoo. And then of course flamingos need big amounts of water. I mean, they wade in the water. So I wanted to create a big pool here at the beginning with a shallow area where they could wade and then a deeper area as well. But what happens is they don't actually wade in any of the water. What kind of happens is that the game really doesn't let you put water that shallow. The system, how it works, it works by depth, and where you can put waters into these shallow pools is they're gonna swim anyway, no matter how shallow it is, because it's just the nature of the game, the nature of the engine, and the nature of how small of an animal I think they are. Maybe if you had a bigger animal, they could wade in the shallow water. So here we're going to end sort of the path outline of the exhibit, and you can see the dimensions here. I think it's large for a flamingo exhibit, but you sort of get a large amount of flamingos in the end because they just breed like crazy. And during building this, they were just breeding like crazy, and they like big amounts of adult population, so they just have so many flamingos. So I think having a big space really does help in the end. So we put a little bit of a raised path here. I wanted to have a raised area to look down on the exhibit because it didn't really sink down the area, like sort of push it down level wise so that the paths are higher on the outside. It's sort of level with the ground, so we need a raised area for people to look down at. It looks a lot more realistic that way, and really you don't want to have a ton of glass, especially for these small animals that aren't very dangerous. Most zoos won't make like big glass areas for them because they don't really need it. They're not going to escape very easily, so they just kind of have raised areas, or they sink sort of the exhibits down so you can look over at the animal, but they don't need to put all this money into glass if the animal's not super dangerous. If it gets out, like a flamingo, I don't think it would be that much of a worry. Compared to like a rhinoceros or a lion or a tiger, you see definitely there's glass in all those exhibits. So here we're going to be doing some rock work around this pond. I really wanted to do a lot of rock work in this exhibit, and I think in most of my exhibits I'm going to have a lot of rock work. It just looks very natural, and I hate the look of the walls. Like, not that I don't think they look good, I just think in a zoo setting or in like a conservation setting in general, just the animals seeing the walls just is a huge turnoff for me. I kind of wanted the exhibits to look as natural, like their habitat, as possible. So it really looks like it's well done and that they're happy. So you see when I end up putting walls, because you have to have some walls, I cover it with foliage because I want to make it look as natural as possible for the animals. I know it's just a game, but I like animals in general, so I think it's just a nice thing to do, and I think that's something you should do at most habitats. For the larger animals, that's going to be very hard to do because they're essentially dangerous, so the glass is a safety feature. And this is the only real glass we have in the exhibit. I know I've been talking about how much I don't want to show glass or use it for flamingos, but I like this one-way glass that they added, so I put it down, and we're going to build a little shelter around this so people can go and look at the flamingos while they're sleeping. So I pulled out those prefab shelters. I'm not going to use any of those because in this zoo we kind of make everything on our own, but I wanted to get a little bit of inspiration from those. So we're going to build generally the same sort of shape, sort of just this little shelter area that has a roof over it, but is pretty much open because it just looks nice. I don't think flamingos really have super like a cave where they need to retreat to or anything, because I don't really know a lot about flamingos, but I'm pretty sure they just wade in the water mostly and sleep in the water. So just for a game setting, they have to go to the bedding at some point. So making a little general shelter for them that looks good but isn't like too crazy of a shelter is gonna work. So I like these. I really like these Planet Zoo. I think it's called like Planet Zoo or New World little log shapes here. They look great and they look so natural, and they're super skinny, which is great because you can do a lot with them. So we just kind of use these as our foundations here. It's sort of a light structure, but it looks really good, and I think it turns out well in the end, so I'll let it play and you guys can see how we build it. And that's really it for the shelter. Now we're gonna start finishing out the walls here, sort of getting the shape of the exhibit, closing it off so we can have these animals run around, and we can start putting down some foliage, because that's the most fun part of the whole exhibit process. So I really like the look of the concrete. It just looks well, not natural, but it looks nice. I think it's probably the best looking barrier that there is, that looks like it would be legitly in a zoo and not just like a game aesthetic. That looks pretty good. So on this side I wanted to do rock walls because I didn't want to have the whole thing be these concrete walls and be covered with foliage, because that would look a little crazy after a while. So here we're going to be starting getting in some of that foliage. I'm going to tick all these filters so we get the right kind of foliage in here in this habitat, so the flamingos will be happy with it, their welfare will be higher, etc. Just let foliage work from here on out, so I'll just let the video play and enjoy. And here's me covering those concrete walls like I was talking about. I didn't want to necessarily cover up the view of the guests on top of that raised path, so I didn't want to put any big trees there, even though I really wanted to necessarily, but I didn't want to block the view at all. So we just used this nice elephant grass. I think it's a great piece. It's thick and it's tall and it just looks like natural grass, and it really covers up those walls well. So here we got to put down the essentials. We're going to put that food enrichment wading pool and all these other enrichment items. I have no idea what that tall thing does, so I just didn't even put it down. I didn't want to mess with it. But we're going to have to end up moving that food enrichment pool that we put in the water, because I wanted them to wade in and use it, but I figured out that they couldn't wade after watching them swim in it. So I have to move the pool out, and I try to make the lake that we have there shallower so that they can wade, and I end up messing it up, and it takes me like a whole nother half an hour to fix it again, so I cut all that out. But I'll just let you know that you can't have flamingos weighed somehow. I tried so many times. If you figure it out, please comment below and tell me how you did it, because I have no idea how to do it. I tried to make the easiest little slope so that they could get into shallow water and wade in it, but it just wouldn't happen. I think they're essentially just supposed to wade in that food enrichment pool item. So I think that's what it's used for, and that's why it's in the game, because you can't have the flamingos wade, but nevertheless, it looks good. Here we're going to put a little outline fence. It's not going to block anyone from necessarily jumping in the enclosure, but it's just a plate fence so that hey, don't jump on these rocks. Don't dangle over and fall in the pool. So, and it also looks nice. It cuts up on those rocks because the rocks look just there. And yep, there's the big cut, and the pool looks a little different, maybe, if you can tell. I don't think it looks that much different, but it took me a half an hour to get that thing fixed again. Here we're going to be doing a little more foliage along the side. I just want to make sure everything looks tip-top, natural. Got little green jumping out of these rocks to sort of cut up the monotony of all these same red rocks. So I think it looks nice in the end, and I'm really happy with how this whole exhibit turned out. I think it looks just great. And I think the flamingos are very happy too, because their welfare is very high. Here we go. I just wanted to, because it's not shallow at all. It's super steep, this sort of incline down into the water. So I wanted to cut it up with a little more rocks along the side, so it cuts up the steepness of it. I don't know. Here we're going to be putting down some of those educational little boards. I love these. These are great. You can pick what animal is on it, and it shows up on the screen. It just looks so realistic, like a zoo. It's just awesome. I ended up putting some benches down too so people can walk, and I put this, I thought this was another one where we could have educational, but apparently it's educational in terms of the state of the world or something, not necessarily an individual animal. So I put the global warming warning on there next to the little area that people are going to be looking at flamingos sleeping, probably kids in the one-way glass. But here's a little functional shed. We needed some power over here so those TVs could actually work. So it's much like the shed we built over on the side there in the last video. Just a little wood shed with the top, and I block it off so you can't see it. And I do put some more backstage over here off camera, and you can see in the glam shots at the end of the episode of what I did. I essentially just put a keeper hut and a staff room by there because the keepers need close proximity in order to feed the animals quickly, or they have to run all the way back to the staff center. So I think by every exhibit I'm gonna have to put a keeper hut because it's just functional that way. So here we're gonna get into the glam shots. I think the build turned out fantastic. Look at this. This is great. This is our first exhibit in the zoo. If we can do something that looks this good with these small animals, I can't wait to build our grizzly bear exhibit because I love bears. It's my logo. And I think we're going to have a lot of different bear species in this zoo, but the grizzly bears especially, I want to make them a huge, nice exhibit that looks awesome. So, and there's the pool. We took it out of the water. We put some rocks around it because it just didn't look natural at all. So here's me just going around in real time, looking at these flamingos, sort of getting these nice shots here. And they look good. See how they don't wade. Even though the water is really shallow, they still swim, and it's a pain. I wish I could get them to wade. It would probably look a lot better, but in the end it looks good. I'm happy. And I think it all looks great. Here we're into the glam shots now, and I really like how it turned out. The flamingos look great in this game, and here's them in their little food enrichment forage pool here. Apparently this is how they eat in real life. They kind of forage through krill and little shrimps in the water, and that's what they eat. And it's cool. It looks cool when it's full here, but they eat it so quick, and they're all gathering around here. Here's the glam shots. This is where we're at so far. Looks really good. There's a little backstage area I did. I kind of fleshed it out a little bit, put a lot of terrain work in to make it look like the style that we have throughout the zoo. A little bit of timber gorge sort of feel. Thank you everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. And please like and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. I post weekly, and we're going to be moving forward in this zoo. We're going to be making some more animals and sort of filling out this front area. Thank you everybody, and I'll see you next time.